The great hall of Valora had never been so full. Thousands of beings from across the galaxy had gathered to witness the rite of ascension. This was the most important ceremony in Valoran history. For 500 years, every princess of the royal bloodline had completed this rite. It was simple in theory. A worthy knight must lift the princess from her ceremonial throne and carry her across the hall. This act would prove that someone in the galaxy was strong enough to protect her. It would allow her to become an adult in the eyes of the law. Princess Lyra sat on the ancient throne made of white crystal. She was beautiful in the way all Valorans were beautiful. Her skin was the color of silver moonlight. Her eyes glowed soft violet in the dim hall. Her hair fell like liquid metal down her back. She wore the traditional white gown of the ceremony, and a small crown of starlight gems rested on her head. She looked calm. She looked peaceful. But inside, her heart was beating fast with worry. The first knight stepped forward. His name was Commander Doric, and he was the pride of the Valoran military. He stood 8 feet tall. His armor shone like polished mirrors. His face was sharp and handsome, and his violet eyes burned with confidence. The crowd cheered as he approached the throne. Doric had trained his whole life for this moment. He had defeated enemies in battle. He had led armies to victory. Surely he would be the one to lift the princess. Doric bowed low before Lyra. She gave him a small nod, as tradition required. Then he stepped closer, placed his hands beneath her, and lifted. His arms shook. His face turned dark with effort. The veins on his neck stood out like ropes. He managed to raise her only a few inches from the throne before his strength gave out. He stumbled backward, gasping for air. The crowd fell silent. Lyra kept her face empty of emotion. Its shame burned inside her chest. She had always known she was heavy. Valorans had bones like stone and muscles like thick cables. But she had hoped that someone would be strong enough. Commander Doric walked away without looking at anyone. His pride was broken. The second knight came from a species called the Grothians. They were known across the galaxy for their size and power. This knight was 10 feet tall and almost as wide. His skin was rough like rock. His arms were as thick as tree trunks. He grabbed Lyra without ceremony and pulled with all his might. For a moment, she actually rose from the throne. Hope flickered in her chest. Then the Grothian's legs buckled. He fell backward with a crash that shook the floor. Guards rushed forward to help him, but he pushed them away in anger. He limped out of the hall, defeated. One by one, the knights tried. A warrior from the Synth Collective came with mechanical arms designed for heavy lifting. His servos screamed and smoked before shutting down completely. A champion from the Kreth Dominion tried next. He was famous for crushing enemies with his bare hands. He could not even make her move. 3 days passed. 47 knights from 12 different species had attempted the rite. All of them had failed. The Emperor of Valora watched from his raised platform with growing despair. His name was Lord Varin, and he had ruled for 200 years. He had seen many things in his long life, but he had never seen a rite fail like this. His daughter sat on that throne, unable to complete the ceremony that would make her an adult. Without this rite, she could not inherit property. She could not sign treaties. She could not marry. In the eyes of Valoran law, she would remain a child forever. Whispers spread through the court like poison. Perhaps she is cursed, said one. Noble, perhaps the gods have abandoned the royal line, said another. Perhaps no one in the galaxy is worthy of her, said a third. And this one hurt the most, because it sounded almost like an insult. Princess Lyra heard every whisper. She felt every stare. She wanted to stand up and walk away, but the rite required her to remain seated until someone succeeded or until the Emperor officially ended the ceremony. Lord Varin would not end it. To end the rite without completion would be to admit that his daughter was beyond help. The political damage would be enormous. Other empires would see weakness. Allies would reconsider their treaties. Enemies would begin to circle. On the morning of the 4th day, only a handful of knights remained willing to try. Most had given up. Some had left the planet entirely, too ashamed to stay. A knight from the Hollow Worlds stepped forward. His species was known for their dense muscles and incredible endurance. He was not as tall as the others, but he was built like a solid block of iron. He took a deep breath, positioned himself carefully, and lifted. Princess Lyra rose from the throne. 1 inch, 2 inches, 3 inches. The crowd leaned forward. Hope filled the air, then the knight screamed. His arms gave out, and Lyra fell back onto the throne with a heavy thud. The knight collapsed, clutching his shoulders in pain. His muscles had torn from the effort. Medical teams rushed in to carry him away. Lyra closed her eyes. She did not want to see the pity in people's faces. She did not want to hear more whispers. She just wanted this to end. Lord Varen stood from his seat. His old face was lined with exhaustion and sorrow. He raised his hand to speak. Perhaps he was finally going to end the ceremony. Perhaps he was going to declare the rite impossible. But before he could say anything, a commotion broke out near the side entrance. Guards were dragging 2 figures into the hall. They were small compared to the Valorans. Their skin was a strange pinkish color. Their hair was dark and flat. Their eyes were simple brown without any glow. "We found these 2 in the restricted corridors, my lord," said the head guard. "They claimed to be maintenance workers." Lord Varen frowned. "What species are they?" The guard checked his datapad. "Humans, my lord. From a planet called Earth." Humans. Lord Varen had heard of them, but only barely. They were a young species from a distant sector. They had no great military. They had no advanced technology. They were known mostly for doing simple labor jobs that other species did not want. "We were just trying to fix an atmospheric processor," said one of the humans. She was female, with sharp eyes and an annoyed expression. "We got lost. That is all." The male human stood beside her, looking tired and confused. He had grease stains on his clothes and dirt under his fingernails. He looked around the grand hall with an expression of mild curiosity, like he had accidentally walked into someone else's party. Lord Varen was about to order them released when something made him stop. He looked at the human male. Then he looked at his daughter on the throne. A strange thought entered his mind. A desperate thought. Perhaps even a foolish thought. But after 3 days of failure, Lord Varen was willing to try anything. "Bring the human male forward," he commanded. The guards pushed the man toward the center of the hall. He stumbled slightly, then straightened up and looked at the Emperor with confusion.
"What is your name?"
asked Lord Vair. The human blinked. "Kong Taeho," he said. "I am just an engineer. Can I please go back to work now?" Lord Varen almost smiled. "Not yet," he said. "First you must try something for me." Kong Taeho had been awake for almost 20 hours. His back hurt. His eyes were dry. His stomach was empty because he had skipped lunch to finish rewiring a cooling system. All he wanted was to complete his job, collect his payment, and sleep for a very long time. Instead, he was standing in the middle of a giant hall filled with aliens who looked like they belonged in a fantasy movie. They were tall and silver and beautiful, and they were all staring at him like he was some kind of strange insect. His partner, Hyuna, stood a few steps behind him. She was also human, also tired, and also very unhappy about this situation. "Taeho," she whispered in Korean. "What did you do?" "Nothing," he whispered back. "I was following you. I was following you." "Then we are both lost." The Emperor of this place was looking at Taeho with an expression that made him uncomfortable. It was the look of a man who had just found something interesting. Taeho did not want to be interesting. He wanted to be invisible. "Do you know what ceremony this is?" the Emperor asked. Taeho shook his head. "No, sir. We are just maintenance workers. We do not follow politics." "This is the rite of ascension," said the Emperor. "My daughter, Princess Lyra, must be lifted from her throne and carried across this hall. The one who does this becomes her official protector." Taeho looked at the princess on the throne. She was staring at him with her glowing violet eyes. She was beautiful, but she also looked sad and tired, like someone who had been sitting in the same place for far too long. "That sounds nice," said Taeho politely. "I hope someone does it soon." 47 knights have tried," said the Emperor. "All have failed." Aho blinked. 47? Why? She is too heavy, said the Emperor simply. Valorans have very dense bodies. My daughter weighs almost 200 of your Earth kilograms. Taeho did some quick math in his head. That was about 440 pounds. Heavy, but not impossible. On Earth, strong men lifted more than that regularly. Of course, Taeho was not a strong man. He was just a regular engineer who sometimes had to move heavy equipment. I see, said Taeho. Well, I hope you find someone strong enough. I want you to try, said the Emperor. The hall went completely silent. Then it exploded with noise. This is an insult, shouted Commander Doric, pushing through the crowd. His face was twisted with anger. You would let this creature attempt what true knights could not do? He is so small, said another noble. He will break his bones. Humans are weak, said a Grothian. Everyone knows this. They come from a heavy world, but they are soft and fragile. Yuna grabbed Taeho's arm. We need to leave, she said. Right now. Taeho agreed completely. He turned to the Emperor. Sir, I am very sorry, but I am not a knight. I am not even a soldier. I fix machines. That is all I do. I cannot participate in your ceremony. The Emperor's face became serious. There is an ancient law. Any being present during the rite of ascension may be called upon to attempt it. Refusal is punishable by imprisonment. What? Said Yuna. That is insane. That is our law, said the Emperor calmly. Taeho felt a headache forming behind his eyes. This was exactly why he did not like leaving the workshop. Every time he went somewhere new, something strange happened. Last month, he had accidentally started a small fire on a space station. The month before that, he had broken a religious statue while trying to fix a pipe. Now he was being forced to participate in an alien princess ceremony. He looked at Yuna. She looked back at him with an expression that said she was going to kill him later for getting them into this mess. Fine, said Taeho. I will try. When I fail, can we please leave? If you fail, you may go, said the Emperor. Taeho walked toward the throne. The crowd parted around him, watching with a mixture of curiosity and amusement. They clearly expected him to fail instantly. Some of them were already laughing quietly. Princess Lyra watched him approach. Up close, she was even more beautiful. Her silver skin seemed to glow softly, and her violet eyes held a depth that made him feel like she could see inside his mind. I am sorry about this, Taeho said to her quietly. She tilted her head slightly. Sorry for what? For failing. It's like everyone else. Something flickered in her eyes. Pain, maybe? Or acceptance? It is not your fault, she said. No one can lift me. I have known this for a long time. Taeho nodded. He positioned himself beside the throne, trying to figure out the best way to do this. The throne was raised on a small platform, which actually made things easier. He could slide his arms under her without bending too much. He took a breath. He thought about all the heavy equipment he had lifted over the years. Reactor cores, engine blocks, industrial batteries. Once, he had carried a broken robot up 3 flights of stairs because the elevator was broken. This was just another heavy thing. Nothing special. He slid his left arm under her knees. He slid his right arm behind her back. Her body was cool to the touch, like smooth metal. She tensed slightly, probably expecting him to strain and fail like all the others. Taeho lifted. She came up easily, too easily. It's like picking up a bag of rice. He stood there, holding her in his arms, and looked around the hall. Everyone was frozen. Their mouths were open. Their eyes were wide. The laughter had stopped completely. This is not that heavy, said Taeho, confused. Is there some kind of trick? No one answered. Princess Lyra stared at him. Her violet eyes were huge with shock. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. In her entire life, no one had ever lifted her. She had never been held. She had accepted that she would always be too heavy, too much, too difficult. And now this small, dirty, tired human was holding her like she weighed nothing at all. Where do I take her? Asked Taeho. Still no one answered. Yuna pushed through the frozen crowd and grabbed Taeho's shoulder. What did you do? She demanded. I just picked her up, said Taeho. You told me to pick her up, so I picked her up. Why is everyone staring? Commander Doric stepped forward. His face was pale with disbelief. "This is impossible," he said. "You must have cheated. There must be some device helping you." "I do not have any devices," said Taeho. "I left my tools in the corridor." "Then how?" demanded Doric. "How can a human do what the greatest knights in the galaxy could not?" Taeho shrugged, which made Princess Lyra bounce slightly in his arms. She made a small sound of surprise. "I do not know," said Taeho honestly. "On Earth, this would not be impressive. Many people can lift this much. I am not even strong by human standards." The hall erupted into chaos. The Emperor stood up so fast that his chair fell backward. His ancient face was filled with an emotion that Taeho could not quite read. It might have been hope. It might have been fear. It might have been both. "Carry her across the hall," commanded the Emperor. "Complete the rite." Taeho looked at the other end of the hall. It was far away, maybe 100 meters. But the princess was not heavy enough to be a problem. "Okay," he said simply. He started walking. His boots made soft sounds on the polished floor. The crowd parted in front of him like water splitting around a stone. No one spoke. No one breathed. They just watched the impossible thing happening in front of their eyes. Princess Lyra remained perfectly still in his arms. Her heart was beating so fast, she thought it might explode. No one had ever held her before. No one had ever been able to. She had spent her whole life being told she was too heavy, too much, too difficult. Servants used machines to help her when she was injured. Guards kept their distance because they could not catch her if she fell. And now this human was carrying her like she was made of feathers. She looked at his face. He was not handsome by Valoran standards. His features were flat and plain. His skin was a strange pinkish color. His eyes were simple brown without any glow. But there was something in his expression that she had never seen before. He was not struggling. He was not straining. He was not even breathing hard. He looked bored. Like this was just another ordinary task in an ordinary day. "Are you really not strong?" she asked quietly. Taeho glanced down at her. "No, I am average. Maybe even below average. I could never do sports in school. Then how can you carry me?" "I do not know. You are not that heavy. Be 200 kilograms. On Earth, many people can lift this much. Weightlifters can lift 300 or more." Lyra did not know what to say to this. Her entire understanding of the galaxy was falling apart. She had always been told that Valorans were one of the stronger species, that their dense bodies made them powerful compared to others. But if humans could lift Valoran weight so easily, then everything she knew was wrong. Taeho reached the other end of the hall. A ceremonial platform waited there, decorated with flowers and lights. He stepped onto it and looked around. "Do I put her down now?" he asked. The Emperor had followed behind him, walking as fast as his old legs could move. His face was shining with tears. "Yes," he said. "You may set her down. The rite is complete." Taeho carefully lowered Lyra to her feet. She stood on shaky legs, still looking at him with those wide violet eyes. "Thank you," she said softly. "You are welcome," said Taeho. "Can I go fix the atmospheric processor now?" But before anyone could answer, Commander Doric pushed through the crowd. His face was red with anger, and his hands were clenched into fists. "This ceremony is invalid," he declared. "This human is not a knight. He is not worthy of completing the rite." The Emperor turned to face him. "The ancient law says any being may be called upon. It does not require them to be a knight." "Then I challenge him," said Doric. "I challenge him to prove his strength is real. If he truly lifted the princess with his own power, then he should be able to defeat me in a test of strength." Yuna stepped forward, her eyes flashing with anger. "He does not need to prove anything to you. He completed your ritual. That should be enough." "Silence, human female," snapped Doric. "This is a matter for warriors." "I am not a warrior," said Taeho tiredly. "I am an engineer." "Then you admit you are weak?" "No, I admit I am not a warrior. Those are different things." Doric smiled coldly. "If you refuse my challenge, I will declare the rite invalid. I will tell every noble in this hall that you used some kind of human trickery. Your species will be banned from Valoran space. Ho felt his headache getting worse. He had been awake for almost 22 hours now. He was hungry, tired, and very far from his bed. And this tall silver alien was threatening to cause problems for every human in this sector just because his pride was hurt. "Fine," said Tejo. "What kind of test?" Doric's smile grew wider. "A simple one. We will grip each other's hands and push. Whoever forces the other to step backward loses." This was a common test among Valoran warriors. Doric had never lost. His grip was famous throughout the military. He had once crushed a piece of metal with his bare hand. "Okay," said Tejo. "Let us do it now so I can leave." They faced each other in the center of the hall. Doric towered over Tejo by almost 3 feet. His shoulders were twice as wide. His arms were thick with what looked like powerful muscles. Tejo just looked tired. They clasped hands. Doric's grip was cool and hard, like grabbing stone. "Begin," said the Emperor. Rik pushed with all his strength. His muscles flexed. His teeth clenched. His feet dug into the floor. Ho did not move. The crowd gasped. Doric pushed harder. His face turned dark purple with effort. Strange sounds came from his throat as he threw every bit of power into his arms. Tejo stood still like a mountain. Then, slowly, casually, Tejo pushed back. Doric's feet slid backward. He tried to resist, but it was useless. The human was pushing him like he was nothing, like he was a child. Like all of Doric's years of training and fighting meant nothing at all, he fell backward onto the floor, gasping for breath. His hand was shaking. His arm felt like it had been hit by a vehicle. Tejo looked down at him. "Are we done?" Doric did not answer. He just lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to understand what had happened. The Emperor approached Tejo with wonder in his eyes. "What are humans?" he asked. "Where do you come from?" "Earth," said Tejo. "A planet in the Sol system." "I know of Earth," said a voice from the crowd. It was a scholar, an old Valoran who had studied many species. "It is a Class 12 gravity world. Most intelligent species come from Class 4 or Class 5 worlds. Earth has more than twice the gravity we are used to." The hall fell silent again as everyone processed this information. "You evolved under twice our gravity?" asked the Emperor. "I do not know what class our gravity is," said Tejo. "But yes, Earth is heavier than most planets I have visited. I usually feel lighter when I travel." Princess Lyra stepped forward. She was looking at Tejo like she was seeing him for the first time. "You feel lighter here," she said slowly, "which means you are stronger here than you would be at home." Tejo shrugged. "I suppose so. I never really thought about it." The Emperor began to laugh. It was a strange sound, full of relief and disbelief and something like joy. "We have been searching for the strongest warriors in the galaxy," he said. "And all this time, the strongest species was doing maintenance work in our corridors." The next few days were the strangest of Tejo's life. He had expected to fix the atmospheric processor, collect his payment, and leave Valora forever. Instead, he found himself trapped in the royal palace, surrounded by servants who kept bringing him food and diplomats who wanted to shake his hand by completing the rite of ascension. He had accidentally become Princess Lyra's official protector. This was an ancient title that came with responsibilities, properties, and political power. Some nobles even whispered that it was equivalent to a marriage proposal. "I did not propose to anyone," Tejo told Yuna for the 100th time. "I just picked her up, I know," said Yuna. "But they do not see it that way. In their culture, what you did was very significant." They were sitting in a guest room that was larger than Tejo's entire apartment back on the space station. The bed could fit 10 people. The bathroom had a pool. There were robots waiting to serve them anything they wanted. Tejo hated it. He wanted a small room with the broken heater and the view of the engine bay. He wanted to go back to fixing machines and being ignored. "Can we just leave?" he asked. "Not yet," said Yuna. "The Emperor has requested a formal meeting tomorrow. He wants to discuss diplomatic relations between Valora and Earth. I am not a diplomat. You are now." Tejo put his head in his hands and groaned. Meanwhile, Commander Doric was having a very different kind of meeting. He had gathered his most loyal supporters in a private room far from the palace center. His arm was still wrapped in bandages from his contest with the human. "This cannot stand," he said. "A primitive creature from a barbaric world has humiliated me in front of the entire court. He has taken a position that should belong to a true Valoran knight. What do you propose?" asked one of his supporters. "The human must be removed. Quietly. Before the diplomatic meeting tomorrow." The room fell silent. What Doric was suggesting was treason. If they were caught, they would be executed. "If we kill him, the Emperor will investigate," said another supporter. "Not if it looks like an accident," said Doric. "The lower districts are dangerous. Machines break down. Toxic gases leak. A fragile human could easily die in such conditions." His supporters exchanged nervous glances. But Doric was their commander. They had followed him for years, and they all shared his hatred for the human who had embarrassed them. "When?" asked one of them. "Tonight," said Doric, "before anyone can suspect." Back in the guest room, Yuna was trying to explain galactic politics to Tejo. He was not listening very well because he kept falling asleep. "This is important," she said, poking his shoulder. "You need to understand what is happening." "I understand that I am tired," he mumbled. "You completed a sacred ritual. You are now legally connected to the princess. The Emperor sees this as an opportunity to form an alliance with humanity." "We are not important," said Tejo. "Humans have no army. We have no advanced weapons. We just fix things." "Yes. But now they know that humans are physically powerful. On a galaxy full of species that evolved on light-gravity worlds, we are incredibly strong. The Emperor wants to use this." Tejo opened his eyes. "Use it how?" "I do not know yet. But it could be good for humanity. We have always been treated like servants. If the Valorans see us as valuable allies, other species might change their opinion too." Before Tejo could respond, a soft knock came at the door. Yuna opened it to find a servant standing outside. "The princess requests a private audience with the protector," said the servant. Tejo groaned again. "Now she says it is important." Yuna gave him a look that said he should probably go. Tejo dragged himself off the comfortable chair and followed the servant through the palace corridors. Princess Lyra was waiting in a garden filled with glowing flowers. She was no longer wearing her ceremonial gown. Instead, she wore a simple dress that made her look younger and less formal. Without the crown, she almost looked like a normal person. "Thank you for coming," she said as Tejo approached. "I did not have much choice." She smiled slightly. "No, I suppose not. Please, sit with me." They sat on a bench beside a fountain that sprayed silver water into the air. The garden was quiet and peaceful, far from the noise of the court. "I wanted to apologize," said Lyra. Tejo blinked. "For what?" "For trapping you here, for making your life complicated. I know you did not want any of this. It is not your fault. You did not ask to be lifted either." Lyra looked down at her hands. "No, I did not. I spent my whole life believing that no one would ever be able to hold me. I accepted it. I made peace with it. And then you came along and changed everything in a single moment." Tejo did not know what to say. He was not good at emotional conversations. He was much better with machines. "Can I ask you something?" said Lyra. "Yes." "What does it feel like? To be so strong?" Tejo thought about this for a long moment. "I do not feel strong," he said finally. "On Earth, I am normal. Maybe even weak. I could not play sports in school. I could not compete with the athletes. I was always just average. But here you are, powerful beyond imagination, I suppose. But it does not feel that way to me. I still feel like the same person I have always been." Lyra nodded slowly. "I think I understand. We never see ourselves the way others see us." They sat in silence for a while, listening to the fountain. Then Lyra spoke again. "My father wants to form an alliance with humanity. He sees great potential in your species. But some nobles do not agree. They see humans as a threat. A threat. We cannot threaten anyone. We are too few and too scattered. You're strong. That scares them. Especially Commander Doric." Teho remembered the look on Doric's face when he fell to the ground. It was not just anger. It was fear. "I should warn you," said Lyra quietly. "Doric is dangerous. He has many supporters. He will not accept this situation peacefully. What can he do?" "I do not know, but please be careful. You may not think of yourself as important, but you are now. To my father, to Valora, to me." Teho looked at her. In the soft light of the glowing flowers, she looked almost human. Worried and tired and trying to protect someone she barely knew. "I will be careful," he said. She smiled again, and this time it reached her eyes. "Thank you, Teho, for everything." He walked back to his room, through the quiet corridors, thinking about what she had said. He had never been important before. He had never been anything except a simple engineer doing simple work. He did not notice the shadows. Following him, he did not see the figures waiting in the dark corridors ahead. He was thinking about a princess with violet eyes who had never been held before, and that was when the attack came. The first attacker came from the shadows to his left. Teho saw movement in the corner of his eye and turned just as a blade swung toward his head. He ducked without thinking, and the blade cut through the air where his neck had been a moment before. 3 more attackers appeared from the darkness. They were Valoran soldiers, wearing black masks to hide their faces. They moved fast for their species, but to Teho's earth-trained reflexes, they seemed almost slow. "Kill him quickly," said one of them. "Make it look like an accident." Teho backed against the wall. His heart was pounding, but his mind was strangely calm. He had never been in a real fight before. On Earth, he had avoided conflict. He was not a violent person. But something deep inside him woke up. Some ancient part of his brain that remembered when humans had to fight predators with nothing but rocks and sticks. When survival meant being faster and stronger and more brutal than anything else. The second attacker lunged at him with a shock weapon. Teho grabbed his wrist and twisted. The sound of breaking bones filled the corridor, and the soldier screamed and dropped to the ground. The third attacker swung a heavy club at Teho's head. Teho caught it with one hand, ripped it away, and slammed the end into the soldier's stomach. The soldier flew backward and crashed into the wall so hard that cracks spread through the stone. The fourth attacker hesitated. He had expected an easy kill, a soft, fragile human who would die quickly. Instead, he was watching his companions fall like children fighting a monster. He turned and ran. Teho let him go. He stood in the corridor, breathing hard, surrounded by groaning bodies. His hands were shaking, not from fear, but from the adrenaline rushing through his blood. "What am I?" he whispered to himself. He had never felt like this before. On Earth, he was ordinary. Here, among these tall and elegant aliens, he was something else entirely. Something dangerous. Yuna found him 10 minutes later. She had heard the commotion and come running with palace guards. When she saw the scene, her eyes went wide. "Are you hurt?" she demanded. Double quotes, "No, I am fine. You fought for soldiers, and you are fine." They were slow and weak. Yuna stared at him like she was seeing him for the first time. "Teho, what happened?" Before he could answer, more guards arrived. Then Princess Lyra came running down the corridor, her silver hair flying behind her. When she saw Teho standing among the fallen soldiers, she stopped and pressed a hand to her chest. "You are alive," she breathed. "Yes, but I think someone wants me dead." The Emperor arrived soon after. When he learned what had happened, his face turned cold and hard. The surviving attackers were taken away for questioning. Within hours, they had confessed everything. Commander Doric had ordered the assassination. He wanted to kill Teho and prevent the alliance with humanity. Doric was arrested in his quarters. He did not resist. He seemed almost calm, like he had expected this outcome. "You have made a mistake," he said to the Emperor as guards led him away. "Humans are not allies. They are predators. One day, they will turn on us all." The Emperor did not respond. He just watched as Doric was taken to the prison cells beneath the palace. The next morning, the diplomatic meeting took place as planned. But now it had a different tone. The Emperor was no longer just interested in humans. He was impressed by them, fascinated by them, perhaps even a little afraid of them. "I would like to propose a formal alliance," said Lord Varen. "Human workers and engineers embedded in Valoran territories. In exchange, we will provide technology and star charts that will help humanity expand into new sectors." Yuna, who had taken over the diplomatic role because Tejo was hopeless at politics, nodded carefully. "This could benefit both our species, but we need guarantees of safety." "What happened last night cannot happen again." "It will not," said the Emperor. "Doric was a fool. His followers have been identified and removed. Any human in Valoran space will be protected by Imperial law." The negotiations continued for several hours. Yuna handled most of it while Tejo sat quietly, wishing he was somewhere else. He did not want to be a symbol. He did not want to be important. He just wanted to fix things. But he understood now that he could not go back to his old life. Everything had changed. Humanity had changed. Because of him, because of one tired engineer who had picked up a princess without thinking. Humans were now seen differently across the galaxy. Not as servants. Not as laborers. But as something powerful and dangerous and worthy of respect. After the meeting ended, Lyra asked to speak with him again. They returned to the garden with the glowing flowers, sitting on the same bench beside the silver fountain. "My father is pleased," she said. "The alliance is good for Valora." "I am glad," said Tejo. "Can I go home now?" Lyra laughed softly. "Not yet. My father has appointed you as the official human liaison to the Imperial Court. You will have to stay here for a while." Tejo sighed. "I was afraid of that. Is it really so bad here?" He looked around at the beautiful garden, the glowing flowers, the silver water. Then he looked at Lyra, at her violet eyes that seemed to hold entire galaxies inside them. "No," he admitted. "It is not bad. Just different." "I have a request," said Lyra. "You teach me about Earth? About humans? I want to understand your species." "Why?" "Because you are interesting. Because you saved me without even trying. Because I have never met anyone like you before." Tejo thought about this. He had never considered himself interesting. He had never thought humans were special. They were just people living on a heavy world, doing their best to survive. But maybe that was special. Maybe surviving on a world that tried to kill you every day made you into something remarkable. Maybe the things humans took for granted were miracles to everyone else. "Gay," he said. "I will teach you." "But Earth is not that exciting." Lyra smiled, and this time it was a real smile, full of warmth and hope. "I think you do not see yourselves clearly. That is one of the interesting things about humans. You do not understand how amazing you are." Tejo did not know how to respond to this. So he just sat beside her in the garden, watching the silver waterfall, thinking about everything that had changed. He had come to Valora to fix an atmospheric processor. Instead, he had lifted a princess, defeated a commander, survived an assassination, and started an alliance that would change the galaxy. And all he had wanted was to do his job and go to sleep. In the weeks that followed, more humans came to Valora. Engineers, workers, scientists. They were welcomed with respect and wonder. Stories spread across the galaxy about the human who had lifted the princess with one arm. About the species from the Death World who was stronger than anyone had imagined. Tejo became famous, which he hated. But he stayed because Lyra asked him to. Because Yuna told him it was important. Because deep down, he was starting to enjoy being seen as something more than ordinary. One evening, Lyra asked him to carry her again. Not for ceremony. Not for ritual. Just because she wanted to feel what it was like to be held without fear. Tejo lifted her easily and held her close. She rested her head against his shoulder and closed her eyes. "Thank you," she whispered. "For what?" "For making me feel light." They stood there in the garden, a human engineer and an alien princess. While the glowing flowers swayed around them and the stars shone overhead, and for the first time in his life, Kang Tejo felt like he was exactly where he was supposed to be.